Good afternoon. So, in previous topic, we discussed about the different treatment methods, okay, for the water treatment. So, in that, we discuss about the first screening, which is used for the removal of floating solid. After that, we discuss about the aeration. So, that aeration process, which is used for the removal of bad odor and gases from that water. That is what the principle of aeration, the gas transfer, where the when that water come in contact with air, so it releases the bad odor and gases from the water, and it gives it add the atmospheric oxygen into that water. Okay, so that process is called as aeration process, where it remove the bad odor gases like CO2 and CH4 H2S, and also it removes some of the bacteria which present into that water. So this about the aeration. Okay, so aeration is various types that we already discussed. After that, we discuss about the sedimentation. So sedimentation, it is of two types, the plain sedimentation and the sedimentation with coagulation. So it is also called as type 1 sedimentation and type 2 sedimentation. So type 1 sedimentation, it is nothing but the sedimentation without a chemical, without coagulant. So that process is simply, you can say, the settling one type or sedimentation type 1, or either you can say the plain sedimentation. And the type 2, that is a second type, that is, you can say, the sedimentation with coagulation. So the plain sedimentation having the various advantages. So what are the advantages of plain sedimentation? So it remove 60% of the solid. Also it remove various percent of bacteria from that water. Also it remove also it reduce the cost of the treatment, and also it minimize the amount of coagulant that required for the chemical coagulation process. Okay, so these are the various advantages of plain sedimentation, so that this process is mostly used before the sedimentation with coagulation. So a second process, that is what so next process, that is the sedimentation with coagulation, where we are going to add coagulant, that is nothing but the chemical. So that chemical which is used for the coagulation process, so that is called as coagulant, and the process is called as coagulation. Okay, so this coagulation process, in which we are going to add alum and lime like a coagulant, so that whatever that suspended solid, colloidal and dissolved solid, which comes closer, and they create the sizable and settleable flock, and that heavy flock going to be settled down easily at the bottom of the tank, and that is the process of the formation of flock, and the process is called as flocculation. Okay, and for the completely mixing coagulant, we are going to add, we are going to use the clariflocculator, and that process is called as clarification. So this about the sedimentation with coagulation, flocculation, okay, and clarification. So after that, the next treatment is nothing but filtration. So that is the very important treatment unit of the water filtration. Okay, water treatment. So water filtration is the major and important process, because either you can say it may be the last treatment methods after the sedimentation coagulation, because sometimes does not require disinfection and chlorination. So in that case, you can say this method, like filtration method, you can say the final method for the treatment of water. Okay, so because why this filtered uh, remove the large amount of solid, that is either you can say suspended solid, colloidal and dissolved solid, which is going to be removed from that water. Also it remove some 80 to 90% of the bacteria from that water, and that make water potable. So these are the various advantages of the filtration, so that the filtration is a very important process in water treatment. Okay, so this process, that is filtration process, so you can define what is the filtration. So filtration is nothing but the passing of the water, or allowed to pass water over the granular filter bed, and that bed is nothing but the sand. So water is allowed to pass through the bed of the sand, and that is what the nothing but the process of filtration. Okay. So during this filtration process, whatever that impurities which present in water, that going to be removed. It may be color, odor, maybe suspended impurities, colloidal impurities, bacteria. This all type of impurities which present in water, that going to be removed during this process of filtration. So after the filtration process, you get the water which is free from all type of impurities, and that water you can use for the consumption purpose. If you visit any restaurant, hotels, railway station, again bus stand, you can see there are the various types of filters available which are used for the water filtration, and that water we can use for the drinking purpose. So these filter are basically of two types of filter. The first one is a gravity filter, and the second one is a pressure sand filter. So gravity filter, it is nothing but the filter which is used without the filter which is without pressure. That means you can say the water is allowed to pass freely by the gravitation means. Okay, so that's why this filter is called as gravity filter. Okay, so this gravity filter are of two types. Okay, so the first type is a slow sand filter, and the second type is the rapid sand filter. Okay, slow sand and rapid sand are the both the types of the gravity filter, and the next one is a pressure filter, where the water filtration carried out by using the pressure, so that the rate of the filtration of water that going to be increase more than increase as compared to the slow sand and rapid sand filter. If you consider the rate of filtration for slow sand is how much, 100 to 200 300 liter per hour per meter square area. If you are considering the rate for the same rapid sand filter, so it may be vary from 3000 to 6000 7000 liter per hour per meter square area. And similarly, if you are considering the rate of filtration for pressure filter, so that rate of filtration for pressure filter is too much high, that is 6000 to 15000 liter per hour per meter square area. Okay, so these are the types of the filter. So you can understand what is the slow sand filter, rapid sand filter, and pressure filter. As the name indicates, slow sand filter, the process of filtration is slow, so that this process is called slow sand. As its name is indicate, a rapid sand filter, so that the rate of filtration of that water is, or the filter is high, so that is called as rapid sand filter. Okay, so how to classify the slow sand filter and rapid sand filter? So if you are there are various points so that you can use to classify the slow sand filter from rapid sand filter. So the firstly you can say the pre-treatment. So in pre-treatment you can see the slow sand filter which not required the plain sedimentation process. That means directly water which comes from the aeration process, you can directly transfer the sediment directly transfer to the slow sand filter. Okay, so that means slow sand filter not required, not required except plain sedimentation. Okay, so that means these slow sand filter which required only plain sedimentation. Okay, so that means which water which comes from that sedimentation process which remove the 60 to 70% of solid. After that, directly that water you can enter into the filter without coagulation flocculation process. Okay, so pre-treatment only the plain sedimentation required in case of slow sand filter. And if you are considering the rapid sand filter, So these require the coagulation, flocculation and sedimentation. So these various types of process or a pre-treatment that required before utilization of rapid sand filter. Okay, so that means it required coagulation, it required flocculation and the sedimentation. That means important to remove all suspended and colloidal impurities before entering into the rapid sand filter. Okay, second thing, the base material, that is gravel, which common for the both. So what is the size and depth of the gravel for the slow sand filter? So if you are considering the slow sand filter, the gravel depth is vary from 30 to 75 centimeter depth, and similarly if you are considering the depth of the gravel for this rapid sand filter is vary from 45 to 50 centimeter, and if you are considering the size of the gravel, so size of the gravel vary from 3 to 65 mm size, and similarly the size of gravel for the rapid sand filter is vary from 3 to 50 mm. Okay, so next one is the filter sand. So whatever that sand which is used as a filtration process, so in case of slow sand filter, the size which is used having the effective size is vary from 0.25 to 0.35 mm. That means that size of sand which is used in slow sand filter, and how much the thickness of that sand bed, it is vary from 80 to 100 centimeter. And if you are considering the rapid sand filter, these sand having the effective size vary from 0.45 to 0.70 mm, and the thickness of that sand bed is vary from 60 to 75 centimeter. Okay, so you can identify what is the uh, depth, what is the thickness of sand bed in slow sand and in the rapid sand. That is, in case of slow sand filter, the depth is vary from 80 to 100, that means higher, and if you consider the rapid sand filter, the depth is less as compared to the slow sand filter. Also, if you are considering the size, so in slow sand filter to use very fine 0.25 to 0.35 mm size of the sand, and similarly if you are going to consider the rapid sand filter, you want to use 0.45 to 0.70, that is coarser sand as compared to the slow sand filter. Size of unit, if you are considering the size of unit in case of slow sand filter is vary from 50 to 200 meter square, and if you are considering the rapid sand filter, the size of unit is 10 to 100 meter square. That means slow sand filter having the larger area and larger size, that is 50 to 200 meter square, and if you are considering the rapid sand filter, the size of the rapid sand filter is 10 to 100 meter square, that is small area and small size. The rate of filtration, if you are considering for slow sand filter, is vary from 100 to 200 liter per hour per meter square area, and if you are considering the rate of filtration for rapid sand filter is vary from 4800 to 7200 liter per hour per meter square area. So these are the various points that you can see classify for the slow sand filter and rapid sand filter. Remaining point that we will discuss next lecture.